Hello everybody and welcome to another tutorial in camera and lens repair. And this time I will try to show you how you actually can adjust the focus to infinity in Carl Zeiss Distagon 2.8, and it's a 25mm, the T star. It's for the Contax Yashica mount. So it will be interesting. Now, this old fellow, which is a nice old, really good lens, but I would like to use it to video, but it doesn't really come out to. I mean, it does, but it not come out to really long distance. Um, so if I want it to be beyond the infinity, well, how to do that? Well, if I put it on my camera, I will say on an adapter here, which goes from the Contax lenses to my Nikon mount. Well, I can put it on here and say that's fine. Okay, it can come out to infinity. Well, if I do so, but if I want it beyond infinity, or maybe have another camera with a different adapter, how would that be? Well, let's see. If I wanted that case, well, let's have a look inside and see what we can do. It's not that hard, and you can always put it back to normal no matter what, so you do not destroy anything. You just make some adjustment, which is in reverse. You can have it back to normal as as you want. So let's get into it and have some tools on the table. We will need a 2mm crosshead JIS screwdriver. It will say, you see, the JIS. It's important because the screw head are JIS. And we will need some rubber cones or rubber tool, whatever. It could be a plumber, a gasket, 45.4mm, or the famous rubber cones from Japan Hobby Tool. And no, I am not sponsored by any company. Everything what I do on my channels is on my own. So that's it. Now we also need some dentist tool, which is good to make some scratch, a very pointy end, and a compass lens tool, whatever you have. It could be very useful. Now let's get into it. We need to take off the back lens group and the front lens group, because it's the front ring here is extremely tight, and I have my issues to get it off, which I will tell you. So let's get off the nameplates, which can take out the whole, unscrew the whole lens group, front lens group. But let's begin with the back. We take rubber cone number 4 and the small end, put it over here in the middle, in the center, have a good grip on it, and then press and counterclockwise. Then unscrew it. So that's off. And then we look into the aperture blades here. Now we need to take off the front. I could use this rubber gasket, have a good pressure on it, and then unscrew it. In this case, since I have been into the lens before, it's not that hard to unscrew, but it could be in your case, because the Carl Zeiss very often use a really hard thread lock, but it's not really the case here. Now, if it sits really tight, get a good gasket here or the rubber cone. It will say rubber cone number 5, which sits perfectly over here and fits in the front ring. Now, the point is, the front ring here, in my case, sits extremely tight. So I would like to find out, okay, how to get into that. So I unscrew the retaining ring that hold the aperture assembly, because it was the only way I could come into the inner helicoid, because then I could take it out. But I will not show it here because you can see it in another video about the focusing issue in this lens. It's the exact same lens. Now, but I need to unscrew the retaining ring. Well, in this case, the front ring here is actually very, I have loosened it, so I can just unscrew it. But yeah, you can see if yours is not, I will just tighten it again. If yours sits extremely tight, then you need to take out the aperture assembly. It's done by unscrew the retaining ring here, and it can also sit quite tight, but it did not in my case, even from the beginning. But you can loosen it and then use the number 5 cone to unscrew the rest of it. So then it's loose and come out. Now, then you can take out the whole aperture assembly, the whole inner part here. Set it to aperture 22, and then you would be able to take it out. You can see how it sits, the little fork down here, and the little pin also, which I will show you, as taken out. This pin goes into this fork here, and you see the little brass spacer here. It goes into one of the gap here, in this case this one, which is closest to the little fork here. So it's loose, and if there was if the front ring was too tight, you could add some isopropyl alcohol into here, because it's there where it will loosen, I mean go into and soften the thread lock. And if it's not possible, well, you actually need to take out the inner helicoid, this one here. And as I have been into it before and set marks where the two guide pins here sit, it should be quite easy. And I also set marks here. This is the guide pin 1, and this is the second one, and it would be the solution if you cannot get it loose. But I mean, you can use some a lot of alcohol, I mean isopropyl alcohol, and simply add it here and let it suck in and soften the thread lock. But it's not the case here, so I can just unscrew it, and it's still tight. And as you can see, it's possible to unscrew the ring here, even if it sits, even if the aperture assembly sits in. So I will just put the aperture assembly in again and show how you can make the adjustment. So there, you can see the pin here, there, and the other well, this spacer here goes into the notch here. So there, and put it in again. And then we can just let it stay in there. So, it sits good. And put the retaining ring on again. Because we will not, it's not necessary to take it out if you can unscrew the front ring. But if not, then you go to dig deeper into it. Now, then we can actually assemble most of the lens again and say that's all fine. Then make the adjustment. And where did it go here? So, tighten it good. Now, I want to set it as infinity, so I need to have some reference point, and my reference point is actually the index mark here. So no matter what if it's near end or infinity here, my index mark is my reference mark. And set the focusing ring to infinity and let it stay there. Now, in line with the index mark all the way up to here, remember to set a scratch here, and also a scratch on the aperture assembly. It will say something like here. You see this tiny arrow I set here. And that's good because then you will not be confused about how does it really sit. And the focusing ring, it also sit the correct place. Now, the focusing ring sits with 3 screws. One there, there, and there. And just to have in mind, which holes are actually used to the screws originally. Well, I set a small mark here where the screw originals sit, there, there, and there. So now I am really sure how it should sit before I took it apart. Now, so if I want to adjust it, I will just unscrew the 3 screws and make the actual adjustment. The focusing ring will on the other hand not show the correct distance anymore. But if you wanted to go beyond infinity, well, that's the way to go. So, and again, you can always come back again to the original. Now, you see, now I've unscrewed the 3 screws, and then I can move the actual focusing ring without any problem and without moving the inner helicoid. So if I wanted to go closer, it will, go beyond, sorry, go beyond infinity. I want the whole focusing assembly going closer to the sensor. And if you want to check it when you have it on the camera, you can just put the whole front lens group in. But in this case, it's just to show you what's actually happened. So it's loose at the moment. So if we see here, I press it down as it is originally. So if I press the focusing ring down into the focusing helicoid, you will see what happened. The focusing inner part comes in and out. So as it comes out, it's far away from the sensor, it will go to near end. But this, it will go more in, it will go to infinity. But if I wanted to be more infinity, over infinity, I'll just turn the focusing ring itself just a little. No, actually, as much as this hole here will come over to the threaded holes. Say there are 6 holes here around, and I simply move it to over there. And now the position is different, so I can put it more into closer to the sensor, but it's not unlimited, because you can see it cannot come any further. It's not because of the focusing ring, it's the inner helicoid that cannot go any further. So if I wanted to come back to normal, I will just go out again and simply move the holes where the screw sits and put them back to normal. So it's not that hard. So you can see here, it's the over infinity, but I want it to back to normal. So I will move the focusing ring and press it down and move it there. So the holes are back to normal. Then move the actual focusing ring, and then I'm back to normal again. And the threaded holes where they should be. There's a little tip. You see the mark I set on the the focusing ring itself. Well, how can I be sure it's correct? Well, I move it, I press down the focusing ring a little and move it, then slightly move it so the holes are correct. But if I move the focusing ring itself, you can see there is, hopefully you can see there is a little scratch down here. That's the reference to this point. So I know it sits correct and the correct hole. So no matter what you move around, this is your reference point to the helicoid here. So now I can just screw it back to normal, and everything is fine again. So there, and I can just move it. So infinity will be as it should. So that's without destroying anything at all. So you can see it's not a problem as long as you set your mark where they should sit. If not, well, the infinity can only come a little closer, but it's enough to have the longer distance infinity. So now I can actually put the front ring on again, and putting in the get the right thread, click, then screw it in. So, and put in the front lens group, have number 5, and move the whole assembly, and you will hear a click where the thread is correct. There, and you can screw it in. And then we are back to the original setting as it was before, and the aperture is also working. The infinity and near and everything is back to normal. So that's it, and I haven't destroyed my lens at all. So hope you enjoy the content and can use the info in this video. That's all for me. Bye bye.